Welcome to the Thriving Christian Artist, the podcast where we hope you connect with God to bust through the roadblocks that have held you back for years, create the work you love, and really live the life you know God created you to live as an artist in His kingdom. I'm Matt Thomas, your host. Let's get started. Well, hey there, my friend, and welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad that you're with me today. You know, if you're like me, social media can be a real blessing in your life, and it can get what you're doing out to tons and tons of people. But sometimes it's like, it can be a weight around your neck. And sometimes, you're like, okay, I love it, but I don't know what else to say. I'm not sure how I should be interacting with people. What do I do? It just can be overwhelming. All right. Some of you look at what we do on social media, on Instagram and Pinterest and Facebook, and go, Matt, do you struggle with this? Absolutely. Well, listen, one of the go-to people that I go to in my life to learn the newest, best things to be doing in social media, especially in the Instagram realm, is a friend of mine named Melissa Pruit. Melissa and I, her and her husband, Paul, have been friends for quite a while now. We've been in a mastermind group for a number of years. And listen, when she talks, I listen. She is one of these people that really has a great handle and ability to teach social media in a way that is easy and approachable. And I'm so excited to have her on the podcast today. She's the founder of a new company called Instaposts, which is all about helping you be able to have things to talk about and have conversation prompts on Instagram, and just a great person to get to know and follow in the social media space. So you're going to love this interview with her. And here's the great thing. This is not just a one-time deal with her. She and Paul are both going to be speakers at the Thriving Christian Artist Conference. Now listen, as you're listening to this, I hope you're saying, yes, I'm going to be there. If you're not, I'm like, hello, what are you thinking? Listen, there is no other conference in the world that brings together your art life, your business life, your marketing life, and your spiritual life, your heart and mind, how you're aligning with the kingdom, all in one place for artists. And that's what the Thriving Christian Artist Conference is all about. It's not only a chance for me to be able to speak into your life, teach you some of the core principles that we teach inside the Creative to Thrive Artist Mentoring Program that are making huge impact in artists' lives. It's also a chance for me to bring some of the best speakers I know in the world in the areas of marketing, your spiritual life, business, finances, kingdom finances. I'm even bringing my financial planner there. All right. This is going to be an incredible weekend for you, and I do not want you to miss it. All you got to do is just click the link that's down in the show notes, and you can find out all about it. Listen, we filled up almost 50% the first day that we opened. All right. We've still got some spaces open. We want to make sure that you get a spot and you can join us. All right. So don't delay. Like all of our events, they sell out pretty quickly. So we want to make sure that you get the opportunity to join us in March 2020 here in the Asheville, North Carolina area over at the Ridgecrest Conference Center for that conference. It's going to be a great opportunity for teaching. Even more than that, a great opportunity to sit around the whole retreat center at meals and at evening time and in sessions with other artists that are doing the exact same thing that you're doing, growing their business, growing their skill, growing in Jesus, and being all that God's got for them in the kingdom. I would love for you to be there. So make sure that you click that link and find out all about it. All right. Well, hey, I was going around and I was like, I need some to give some shout outs today. And so I was looking over at Stitcher, and a lot of you use Stitcher to listen to the podcast. And I was like, look at Cheryl Lamine. Oh my gosh. She's in the mentoring program. I know Cheryl. I'm like, Cheryl, you left the most beautiful, review. And so I was going to read it because I was like, this is really sweet. So thank you, Cheryl. She said, the title of her review is Worth the Listen. And she says, the purpose of this weekly podcast is to show artists are thriving, and its variety of guests is not just limited to visual artists. Matt is a positive person who knows that we are all encouraged and strengthened when we hear about others' creative journeys. Heck, I've even been in a few new creative ideas myself, just listening to former guests. I especially like that it's a quick podcast and doesn't take more than about 20 to 25 minutes. I can finish one just running around town. And then she goes and talks about the Thriving Christian Artists Facebook group and the mentoring program and all that. Cheryl, you're making me blush. Listen, thank you, Cheryl, so much. It means a lot. Your friendship means a lot. And I'm just so glad that the podcast is a blessing in your life. And listen, if you've not reviewed the podcast or you're just listening to it for the first time, you've not hit the subscribe button, please do that so you can let me know that the podcast is a blessing in your life, that it's an encouragement to you. And also, when you hit the subscribe button, that ensures that you'll never, ever, ever miss another episode of what God's doing here on the Thriving Christian Artist podcast. All right. Well, hey, without further ado, I'm going to get out of the way and introduce you to my great friend, Miss Melissa Pruit. Enjoy this interview. Well, hey, everybody, I'm so glad that you're with me on the podcast today. I've got one of my friends, Melissa Pruit, with me, who is not only an awesome person, but a social media guru. Melissa, I'm so glad that you're with me today.
I'm so excited that I'm here today. Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've had the pleasure of getting to know each other over the last few years through one of our common mentors in the internet space. Yes. and all that sort of thing, and have been in a mastermind group together and gotten to see each other's businesses grow and morph and all of that. And just so excited for you to be able to share with our listeners today on the podcast what you're doing. Take just a second, let everybody know who you are, what you do, and that sort of thing.
Sure. So I am a social media strategist, marketing strategist, and content strategist. And I work specifically with entrepreneurs with building their Instagram engagement and using Instagram as a marketing tool. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about that, but I love Instagram and how you can really connect with your followers in just a really different and personal way. And it kind of ties in with my background because I didn't start off in business. I actually have a psychology background.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So
you're analyzing me the whole time we're talking. This is making me nervous.
I love learning about people, and actually, I was a therapist for over a decade. Wow. So my background really started off in psychology and learning about people and how people work, how our brains work, how people think, and how we react, and relationships. And I did that for about over 10 years. I was a therapist, and I actually did some coaching as well, and had really great progress with my clients. Got to work with all different clients from different walks of life. I worked with, women with challenges with body image issues. I worked with families, and I transitioned into the business world. And what was interesting is that in the business world, it's the same types of challenges of relationship building and connection. And it's the same things that, different levels, of course, with the clients I was working with. But at this end of the day, we're all people, and it's learning just relationships. So I take the information that I know with my psychology background into the business world. It makes it really fun and interesting.
That's so good. And see, we've not even talked about any of this. We're just like, let's do a podcast, but so you don't know this about like in the mentoring program and all that kind of thing, but I'm always telling artists on the podcast and in my mentoring program, listen, nobody buys art because they need it. Nobody buys art because they think you're awesome. They buy because of connection. They buy because of relationship, that, know, like, and trust, kind of relationship. And the more that you build relationship, the more that you have the opportunity to serve your clientele through the things that you purchase. And I think, maybe this is a place to jump in. So many people miss that when it comes to social media because they think it's just about getting likes or getting followers or getting clicks or direct messages or whatever, and making it always transactional. And I've always thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always thought that social media, while it can be transactional, that is, somebody click a button and buy something, it's really about brand building and relationship building in order to move people into your little world, if it were, to, as an artist, know how I create, know how I work, know what's important to me.
Absolutely.
Am I on the right track?
You are. It's so interesting because with social media, it's a new way of communicating with people, but old school stuff that's the things that work. It's those relationships. Like you had mentioned, we're in this mastermind together where we talk and we have those conversations, and we've built such a great relationship, such a great friendship. And that's what's going to stand the test of time. And it's just using the app. And I talk about Instagram. Instagram can be your best marketing tool when you use it all about the relationships and
Mm.
connection and a two-way dialogue where it's not just all about you pushing your stuff, because that feels icky.
Yeah.
But it's you connecting with people and having that two-way dialogue and getting to know people as people. And that's what's going to set you apart from everyone else in your market. That's what's going to make you stand out. And like, know, and trust. People buy from people that they like, know, and trust. People
Yeah.
buy from people that they feel like they have that connection with. So it can be such a great and powerful tool to use. And it all starts with that connection piece.
Yeah. So many artists, because they're intuitive, emotive, that sort of thing, they really shy away from the marketing end of things because maybe they've seen somebody or experienced that kind of used car salesman. Apologies to all the used car salesmen out there, but they don't like that slimy, slick feeling. And again, sales and marketing, when it's at its best, is, I don't think, ever about trying to get somebody to buy your thing, but rather it's about understanding where they are and understanding how you can serve them. And I think that's what I love about your perspective when it comes to social media. It's not about trying to convince somebody to buy something, or as we maybe say, hornswoggle them, twist their arm into doing something or tricking them. No, it's about building that authentic relationship so that they so that you can really serve them in a way that's authentic. So now I have to admit, of course, I'm an artist. I built a very successful art business over the years. Was in marketing, for those people that don't know, for years and years. I was late to the Instagram game because, and it's still not, I'm just being honest, it's not, I'm more of a Facebook guy. I do Instagram because I think I need to, and it's building and that sort of thing. But talk about the difference between Instagram and Facebook. Do I need both? And how do you approach them differently? Because they're completely different animals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like to look at Instagram and Facebook as sisters. So they're very complementary to each other. And you're right. There's some people that gravitate more towards Facebook than Instagram. But what I absolutely love about Instagram is that on Facebook, you have your personal profile where you share everything about your life, your family, what you do on the weekend, all those fun things. And then you have your business page, which is really about what you do, showing your work, doing tutorials and things like that. And for the most part, they stay pretty separate. You can cross promote back and forth and do some personal things on your business and vice versa, but they're kind of in their own little worlds. What I love about Instagram is that it takes those two pieces, the personal and the business, and it smushes them in together into one app. And what you'll find is when people use Instagram right, it's that relationship building, because they are showing what they do on a regular basis. They're showing their store, they're showing their work, but then they're also talking about, the personal journey behind that. They're talking about what they do on the weekends. They're talking about their family, and they weave the content up as far as personal and business throughout their stories, throughout their posts. So it's just a nice way, again, building that like, know, and trust factor so that you become recognizable. When people think of what it is that you do, you become top of mind because you've been so interested in sharing things about your life that you just follow these individuals that are sharing parts of themselves, and you want to know more about them. Then naturally, when there's an opportunity where you can share something that makes sense, right, someone is going to take that buying decision with you or refer you, and you just are top of mind. So that's what I love about it, because it really is about meshing the two together and having that business side and that personal side and sharing both of those in one app.
Yeah. I get this question all the time from people. They're like, man, how do I get more people to buy my thing or whatever? And, I've got a new, they come to me and they're like, I've got this new art class, like it's going to be the only art class online or whatever, how can I get more people there? And I'm like, listen, at the end of the day, nobody cares about your art class. Nobody cares about your conference. Nobody cares about they care about developing a relationship with you. And I think when you do that, you really push out any idea of competition, because there is no competition in relationship.
Yes.
When people like you, then I may be saying the same thing as somebody else, and they may be saying it better, or they may do better work or whatever it is. But when you develop relationship with it, that relationship becomes the unfair advantage that I think we're all looking for, in marketing.
Absolutely. And because we all are individuals and we all have that God-given gift, why wouldn't we share about that about ourselves? I mean,
Exactly.
why wouldn't we try to connect? And there is no competition. I love that
Yeah.
because it's just you being yourself, connecting with your people from your perspective. And, that's what sets you apart from everyone else. So there's really is no competition.
Yeah. A lot of artists, I think because of maybe the way they grew up, their own baggage around their creativity, maybe what they thought about what's appropriate or what's not in promoting themselves.
Mhm.
A lot of them really struggle with this idea of what some would call self-promotion. And again,
Yes.
that kind of icky feeling, or that feeling of being prideful, like they're kind of putting themselves out there. And, I know that when I've traveled in Australia or England, they have this thing that they call the tall poppy syndrome, which is essentially don't be the tall poppy in the field, because if you do, you're going to get your head cut off. Just kind of be with everybody else, don't rock the boat and that sort of thing. And talk about how Instagram can really be that place where you can share authentically without having to feel like you're being prideful or pushing yourself.
Yes. And I love this because I get this a lot with coaching people, that they are kind of shy to promote themselves because they don't want to seem like they're bragging. They don't want to
Right.
seem like they're above anyone else. And really what this is one of the pieces of content that I teach people. This is all about positioning yourself. Position yourself as the expert in what it is that you do. Because again, you have that unique talent, that unique skill,
Right.
something that you can give to this world that you can really share and help people with. And when I tell people about position yourself, what it does, it really lets people know that you have their back. When you position yourself as an expert, you let people know you have their back, you've got them, you can help them, you've been through this before, you've helped other clients before in this situation. And really, coming back to that psychology piece, this fulfills a basic human need. One of the most basic human needs is that need to feel secure and safe.
Yes.
So when you position yourself as an expert and you do it from a place where you're truly just sharing what it is that you do and how you can help and how you've helped other people with whatever it is that you do, you're letting people feel safe. You're letting people feel secure that they can work with you, that they can trust you. And again, you're helping them in that way because they want to come to the expert. We don't want to go, like, I wouldn't want to go to a doctor that's just like there's no clue what he's doing. I want to know that he has those skill sets to help me. So it's the same thing with anything that you do. Whether you're an artist, whether you're a coach, whatever the case might be, you're positioning yourself as an expert and you're letting people know that you have their back and you have their best interest in mind.
Yeah. And just to make that kind of translation to an artist as opposed to an expert influencer,
Mm-hmm.
somebody like you or I that's kind of helping people succeed. As an artist, one of the things, like when people walk in my studio, I've got articles of me in newspapers and magazines and all this kind of stuff. And I share those same things on Instagram. And when an accolade comes my way or an interview comes my way, that's part of, I think, building that reputation as an expert, that in a non-braggy way,
Yes.
you're just kind of letting people know subliminally, hey, I'm recognized, hey, I know what I'm talking about. I've always told artists that, when I'm a big believer in sharing, when you sell a piece of art, if at all possible, deliver it, take a picture of it in context in the home, because that's one of the reasons my work has gotten so many accolades over the years, is that I take pictures of my work in $1 million and multi-million-dollar homes.
Mm-hmm.
So subliminally, immediately when people look at my website or Instagram, they say, oh, his work must be expensive. His work must be important. His work must be valuable. And
Yes.
it builds a brand story, I think, around what you're doing in a way that you don't have to say anything, right? A picture's worth 1,000 words.
A picture's worth 1,000 words, and you're positioning yourself as the expert, and you are fulfilling the need for that client. So other people that are looking, for those beautiful pieces of art, to bring, that inspiration or joy or whatever it is that they need in their life, like you're fulfilling that need, and you're letting people know that you can help them with solving that challenge that they might have in their life.
Absolutely. And I think the same for those that are teaching art, either via online courses, which many are doing nowadays successfully, or even in-person courses, sharing stories, sharing pictures, testimonials, things like that. Again, celebrating what's happening in the realm of what you're doing is a huge way, without having to sound like I'm bragging, I'm the person, you should celebrate me, all that. It's not about that.
Yes.
just
Yeah.
about telling the story.
Yeah. I always
Now,
like to, oh, go ahead.
no, that's fine.
I was like, I always like to relate selling to sharing. Like,
Yeah.
and if you have something that's really amazing to give, like, why wouldn't you share that with people? Why would you be selfish and hold it back? And so
Yeah.
if everyone could really just reframe their mind that really they're just sharing what it is that they're doing and not being selfish and just giving value, then the sale will come, but
That's right.
just reframe it as sharing. Yeah.
Right. Right. Well, it's kind of, I teach this thing in our mentoring program that I call the Parthenon marketing plan, which is essentially, if your business is the roof of the Parthenon, then all the pillars underneath that are like all your marketing strategies. And
Yes.
if you have one silver bullet, one show or one social media post or one, that you're trying to base your whole business off of, which a lot of people do, you're going to find that seasonally or when the economy changes or whatever, you're in a mess. But I think, again, one of the things that social media does, especially Instagram, is allows you to build that brand and build those relationships so that when the economy does switch, when an election goes crazy, when, it seasonally changes or whatever, your business is not at the mercy of those external changes. You've built a very firm relationship with your clientele. And,
that's so true. That's so true. And again, people are just getting to know you as the person. So no matter what it is that you do, and if that season changes,
yeah,
you're still the same individual, and they are still connected to you at the levels of the heart. So
yeah, that's right. I love that, because it builds a confidence in artists. I know that the shows that I've done over the years, sometimes you get next to Nervous Nelly or, this kind of person next to your booth, and they're like, well, it's an election year, it's going to be horrible, or the economy's down, it's going to be a bad show, or how's your year going? And I'm like, you know what? I'm not living in that. I know that when I am true to who God's created me to be, when I'm doing the thing that I love, that I'm purposed to do, and I'm sharing that authentically, there's a confidence and a healthiness in my business that allows me to keep going. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, now, one of my pet peeves, this is my pet peeve about social media.
All right.
Here it is. And sometimes I'm guilty of it too, but I'm just going to say I don't like it. I hate it when people put the same thing they're putting on Facebook on Instagram.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if I saw you on Facebook, I don't want to see the same thing on Instagram. So am I off base in that? I mean, is that like we should be repurposing and put it everywhere? Or because I'm like, I think there should be different things in different places, right?
Well, there's two ways to look at it, because yes, you always want to create that original content. I think as an artist, we always want to be just creating and doing things. And at the same time, Instagram and Facebook, they are sisters, but think about it. Just like you said, you're more of a Facebook kind of person.
Right.
So different people view different content at different points of their life. So just because you post something on Facebook doesn't necessarily mean the people on Instagram are going to see it, and they still could find value with that. So I look at it as different, it's like different TV channels, and people always gravitate towards the TV shows that they want to watch. Some people watch the Facebook TV show. Some people watch the Instagram TV show. So yes, you should create original content and think about your followers, but I don't see anything wrong with putting the same type of content. If you want to space it out on different days so it feels a little bit of that variety with it. But again, you're going to be reaching a totally different audience on Instagram that might not see what you're doing, because just because someone's following you on Facebook doesn't necessarily mean they're following you on Instagram, and vice versa. And there's also going to be different people that you're going to be reaching on those channels within Instagram. And that's not even to mention within Instagram too. If you just even think about this, the different channels. On Instagram is its own channel, but then within Instagram are 3 different channels where you have people that post photos with the words and videos with the words. Then you also have your stories, which are those short 15-second clips, and then IGTV, which are the longer videos.
Right.
So those are different channels of content as well too, that are going to reach different people. People just consume content differently. So it's just something to think about when you're creating that content, that you can repurpose it. Keep your followers in mind and when they're hanging out there, what they're looking for, but you can use some things that are very similar to Facebook and Instagram, because you're going to be reaching different types of people.
Right. Now, one of the things that I'm a big believer in is that, your habits define your life, and I think for a lot of people, social media can feel like a have to more than a get to, and that sort of thing. Yes. So there is a habitual nature to creating on social media in a natural sort of way. It's kind of like, my right hand and left hand nowadays. It just kind of works. It's just, I just think like that nowadays, but a lot of people don't, especially if they've not been in business or they've never grown a business before. So talk about, for the artist that is sitting out there, maybe they're just coming back to their art, or technology is overwhelming for them, or they're not sure, how to jump into this water. Maybe what are a couple of tips that you would say, as you're starting or wanting to see this accelerate for you? Where would you start?
Absolutely. So at the end of the day, it's about connecting with people. So what you can do is just, what kind of intention are you setting for the day to connect with your followers? So if it's on Instagram, what I would say for someone that's just starting off, just get used to using the app and making it a habit. And you don't have to go crazy with this, because I know that's where a lot of people get a little bit stressed out, because they think they have to be on all the apps at all the same time. If you just make a commitment to yourself, how am I going to connect with my audience today? And what is that going to look like? And whether it's just, a written post with a photo, whether you do a story, which is that video, or if you do a longer video, but just set that intention of what kind of connection and what kind of value do I want to give my followers today? And value can be as simple as something inspirational, like a quote. It could be a tutorial where you teach them something. It could be something funny. It could be behind the scenes of what it is that you do. Never take for granted anything that's in your wheelhouse that you might think it's just, oh, this is just boring stuff. Like, this is just normal. Never take that for granted, because what you might not find that interesting, your followers, they're super curious. They want to get to know you. So post those behind the scenes photos of you working. Post a tutorial of how you do something that might seem just super simple to you, but for them, it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But make that commitment to yourself. Again, just one thing: what kind of value do I want to share today? And if you could just set that intention each day and do that in a post or a video, it's going to take off some of that pressure, because again, it's like not having that perfect post, not having that perfect, social media, situation. It's just, I just want to give value every day. And what is that going to look like for me today?
That's so important. I was talking to Tanya about that the other night, something simple I said on Facebook, and there are all these comments are like, oh my gosh, it's so profound, or it changed my life, or whatever. I'm like, we all think, when we get an idea, or when we've, kind of come into a new revelation, we think that everybody's got that,
Yes.
and they don't, so like you said, the things that you take for granted that are just kind of your normal life, especially as an artist, and for people that are wanting to buy from an artist, our life is kind of unique. I mean, that we're in the studio doing these things, spending our days creating. And so for a lot of people, they're like, wow, can you really do that? And how did they do that? And I was telling somebody the other day, about, it's just interesting, the things on social media that get coverage. And here I am trying to create all this content and all this kind of stuff. And my number one post on Facebook, and it turned out to be Instagram as well, of all time, is me out there scraping a log with a draw knife, making my baskets. I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. I just had me out there on a live video, and that thing's got like 25,000 views.
Yes. I mean, it's the things that we don't think about that are just so interesting to people to post that. Yeah.
Exactly. So, well, now, before you go, I want to ask you about hashtags, because I know people are like, what is a hashtag? And it's funny, I have to tell people, I was like, honey, listen, this is what we used to call the pound sign. So it's, it is really important on Instagram. So when I teach and have taught social media and Instagram in my mentoring program, I kind of talk about hashtags as neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, these are groups of people and neighborhoods of people that are interested in the same type of thing. So if you want to be seen and found in that neighborhood, and as somebody that's influential in that, make sure that you're researching and using those hashtags. So how would you explain hashtags to somebody, and maybe the top way to start seeing those really produce fruit in their business?
Well, I love the neighborhood analogy. I love that. I always say hashtags are like Instagram's own little SEO. So it's their own little way of finding content. And you can use up to 30 hashtags on your written post and up to 10 on your stories. And people are always like, that's a lot of hashtags. But the more hashtags that you use, and if you have that ability to use them, it's going to get your content in front of the right people. So when researching your hashtags, and this is something that I teach people, it's really a matter of just some trial and error and some research, but looking for hashtags that are relevant for the people that are looking for that type of content. So really focusing on that. Local hashtags are really important too, especially if you're a local artist and you want to attract people into your shop or into your store or into your gallery. Using those local hashtags, even though they're smaller hashtags, they're going to get your content in front of the right people that are going to come to your store, which is going to be more important for you than getting more of like that widespread, especially if you're trying to bring people in your community as well. And so it's just a matter of testing them out and tracking your hashtags. I keep them all stored in one spot so and I group them together so that that's not a pain point for me later on when I'm creating content. I can just copy paste, put it right into my post, and it's ready to go. The biggest piece is that organization piece, because people get stressed out. Like when I tell them they have the 30 hashtags, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to type that out every time. Like, no. Like plan ahead. That little bit of preparation that you'll do will make it so much easier when you start to do this on a regular basis.
Yeah. I'm just going to say 98% of y'all need to rewind and listen to that last 15 seconds, because that was the thing that overwhelmed me, because I'm like, I don't remember the hashtag I used last time. I don't know where to do it. And they're sending me all, I'm doing Instagram and it's giving me all these autofill recommendations. Which ones do I do? I don't know. So spend a few hours researching. And I put mine in my notes section.
That's what I do too. Yeah.
On my iPhone, and then just boom, I can copy and paste. And well, Melissa, this has been so good. I know we could talk for hours.
Yes.
The great thing is though, you and Paul, all right, which we'll also be interviewing on the podcast later on, are both going to be speaking at the Thriving Christian Artists Conference coming up in March 2020. Here in Asheville, and we are so excited.
We are so excited. Oh my gosh, we're looking at the venue and all the things that are planned out. I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful spot. And the thing that's going to be nice, that is always my heart at a conference, is not only speaking from stage, but you guys are so personable and approachable, and we're excited to have you guys to be with us all weekend, and people will be able to ask you questions and talk to you and that sort of thing. So any preview of what you might be it's a long way away yet, but any little nugget or anything like that
I think with the conference, I'm really going to be diving in deeper into Instagram and some of those connection pieces. And some of the things that I do, again, I talked about that psychology background, but blending that together and doing it in a way that's going to be easy for you to really connect with your people and invite them to work with you, as well as that positioning we talked about. So we're going to be doing a deep dive into that. And then again, I'm really excited too, because I love meeting people at live events. Like that's one of my favorite things. So like I'm super excited about meeting everybody too.
Absolutely. If you're listening to the podcast, you're like, I didn't know about this. Listen, you can register right now in the link in the posts. Early bird registration ends on December 1st. So if you want $100 off your conference ticket, you need to register by December 1st. And then you can, after that, it goes to the normal price. And, I was just looking at registration this morning, Melissa. We may sell out before we even go public. So if you're...
That's awesome.
Which is awesome. So I'm like, if you want to come to this, you need to register very quickly. So, well, Melissa, thanks for being on. Where is the best place? Obviously Instagram, but the best place kind of for people to connect with you and your world and what you're doing with InstaPost.
Well, if anyone wants to follow me on Instagram, it's at Real Melissa Pruit, and it's also the same thing on Facebook at Real Melissa Pruit. So people can follow me there, shoot me a message. I'm happy to answer any questions that people have about Instagram and just get to know you too.
Awesome. Well, Melissa Pruit, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me today.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks so much for spending a few minutes with me today on the podcast. Listen, I hope it's been a huge encouragement to you on your journey as an artist. Hey, also, before you leave, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the other episodes of the Thriving Christian Artist podcast. And also, be sure to connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, or at my website, which is matttommymentoring.com. Until next time, remember, you were created to thrive. Bye-bye.